Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to Surviving Hollywood. I'm Johnny Ray Diaz.
I am Aaron Arnold.
And today, actually, just moments ago, we just sat down with a friend of mine, a super talented and working actor, Coronel.
The guy's got stories.
Yeah, this guy's great, man. I met him a couple years ago on this project. I worked with Josanne Marie, which was also a guest on the podcast. And he was a true pleasure to work with, and this guy is just killing the game.
I could tell just by talking with him that he would be a great guy to work with on set. He has a great presence, and you can tell he's there to work.
He's got a good state, right? Because he always say it's like he was like one of those guys that doesn't he doesn't want to ruffle feathers or step on toes. He's like, no, man, I'm just here to work and do my thing and do a good job and be on time and just present, ready to collaborate. He's done a lot of stuff. He's been on recently 68 Whiskey, Westworld, Man with a Plan, Lucifer. I mean, the number of shows that he's done is just it's longer than my arm.
So he looks like a big, tough military guy, and he was in the military, but he got his start as a professional salsa dancer and actually got in the movie Blow with Johnny Depp as a salsa dancer, and you can see him in the movie, in the background dancing it up and stuff.
It kind of makes me want to go back and watch it just to see where he's at.
I watched it a month and a half ago, and the movie still holds up. It's great.
Yeah, this guy's done it all. It's a really cool story about him, kind of how he got started out. We talk about 9/11. We talk about tons about self tapes, audition techniques, what he does in the room, how he handles self tapes. The mindset to have, and
he talked about asking somebody if he could be a shadow director.
That's right.
With him, and the guy said yes, and just the whole process of then learning how to come at it from a director's point of view and how that helped him as an actor and everything.
That was what I was most interested in, is him shadow directing on this show LA's Finest with Jessica Alba and Gabrielle Union.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of hearing the whole process of from starting from a tone meeting to then being post-production on an episode, how that whole episode evolves is I was super interested in that. Anyway, I just had a lot of fun with him, and he's also working on something he wouldn't talk to us about.
This was the big Project X. This is, we can't say what it is, but he was just showing us pictures when he first got here. It's a pretty big deal. I don't know what to say about it.
Yeah, but we'll talk more details about it. You guys
see if you can figure it out while
you probably
watching
can.
This.
Right?
We bring it up a few times, and you'll get nuggets, and see if you can guess what it is.
It's a video game, so that narrows it down, right?
Yeah. By the way, Austin didn't join us on this podcast. He just flew out to New Mexico earlier today to shoot a show. I don't want to say what the show is.
Are you allowed to say what it is or not?
I have no idea, but I probably shouldn't. I don't. You know what? Let's give a...
That's a good excuse, man. Hey, I can't come on the podcast. I'm flying to New Mexico to work on a show. Wow. Must be nice.
I'm going to give you guys a clue, and this could be anything. I don't want to make the clue too obvious, but... I shot the sheriff. Anyway, guys, enjoy the episode. Yes.
Boom.
Now presenting Johnny Ray Diaz. Ha. Yeah. And the Arnold twins. Hollywood, Hollywood, Hollywood. Tell me what it's like to live in Hollywood. Hollywood, Hollywood, Hollywood. Tell me what it's like to live a life in Hollywood. I'ma survive. I'ma survive. I'ma survive. I'ma survive. Hollywood.
So how's it going, man? What's been going on with you?
Oh man, it's been a crazy start to 2020. Let's just say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In a good way, or
No, in an absolutely fantastic way.
Okay.
But it's something that, being an actor yourself, sometimes you go through these periods where you're like, man, I can't buy an audition.
questioning life.
Yeah. When's the next job? Am I gonna have another job soon?
Right.
And then they say, careful what you ask for, because the last 2 months. I mean, we're already in February.
So it just started, but
but
right.
The middle of December just took off, and I was slammed every day, no social life, literally, And then January comes along, and I think I told you I'd been shadowing a director on the TV series LA's Finest, and this was a director who I'd worked with years before on a TV series called The Last Ship.
Okay, yeah.
The director by the name of Anton Cropper.
Okay.
Who was one of the executive producers of Suits and
great show.
Yeah, and guy loves that show.
Directed multiple episodes of Blackish, and
tons of TV then.
Great show.
Yeah, tons of TV, and he's an amazing director. And I jokingly, when he was directing me in The Last Ship, I jokingly said to him, "Man, I would love an opportunity to just shadow you." And he turned to me and said, "Yeah, for sure. Let's exchange information, and I'll hit you up."
Dude, that's so cool.
Yeah, a few months later, I got cast in Training Day with Bill Paxton, and who's the director? Anton.
Did you know?
I didn't know.
Did he know? Because I'm getting a lot of times the director's involved in picking the.
Yeah, I went
actors.
in for the audition. It was a great audition, and then I got the avail, and then the booking almost like in the same day. And when I get the script, directed by Anton Cropper, so I had his information. I was like, "Hey, yo, Anton, I see we're going to be working together again." He goes, "Yeah, I know. When I saw your name on the audition list, I knew who was getting the role." I was like, "Oh,
wow."
So it's kind of like an inside track. But this business is, and it makes me feel bad in some respects because I know what it is to prepare for an audition. I can only imagine how many actors auditioned for that role. I mean, when I went in for that role, there was maybe 15 other actors in the room.
Now, was that the callback or was that for the first audition?
That was on tape for producers.
Okay.
It's when I first started acting, it was like you went in and read with a casting associate for a pre-read because they don't know you. You have absolutely nothing on your resume.
I always thought that was weird, like a pre-read.
Yeah, because they want to see.
Well, I'm reading, so what? I don't understand. I'm auditioning here. Like, what's?
It's an audition. It's an audition,
right.
and it's for them to say, "Huh, is this person got the chops to bring him to the next level?"
Casting associate can't. They have no power to say if this person has the chops. They can only say no.
Right. But they can say, "Okay, he's good enough. Let's bring him. I recommend we bring him to casting." And then you go to the casting directors, and it has changed a lot in the last couple of years. I've been acting now for 20 years. And I've seen it go from, pre-reads to then a session with the casting director to then a callback.
Right.
To where casting couch to me too.
I never had that experience, fortunately. Everybody that I've ever dealt with has been the utmost on professionals. So
that's good.
I'm fortunate that never had that happen, although I have friends that.
One day it will, though.
Yeah,
I'm just kidding. I
hope not. That would be a very awkward conversation.
Well, you're trained in martial arts, so it'd be a very quick conversation.
I think you got this handled.
Yeah. No, and so it's a situation now where it's changed a lot. A lot of our auditions now, even though the casting director may be in town, will request the actors to put themselves on tape.
Right.
So now as actors, we've taken on a different role. We've taken on the role of not just acting,
the casting
but
director
now. The DP, you set up your, unless
I prefer that. What do you think?
For the
first,
it has
for
its
the first
plus and
round.
minuses. The plus is you can work the material and the audition till you're absolutely perfectly satisfied.
Submit your best, yeah.
Right, and you submit what you feel is your best. But sometimes, if you don't know, that's why I always recommend if you're going to audition for a particular show, if the show has been out for a while, to watch a few episodes and get yourself familiar with the genre and get yourself familiar with the flow of the show. So that you kind of, you have a very rounded idea of what they're going to look for in your audition.
And the tone and all that stuff.
The tone, the pace.
Yeah.
Is it a serious show? Is it more dramedy based?
Is there some humor in it?
Right, exactly. Yeah. And so, it's I've been fortunate enough that I've actually been cast quite a few times off tape. And I prefer to be in the room personally because you get that rapport, that one-on-one with the casting director, especially if it's a casting director who you've never been in for, or a casting director that you have an excellent rapport with, because that's just an opportunity to reconnect with them in the room.
Hey, what's going on?
Yeah, how you been?
Hey,
and this, that, the other. Exactly.
Is that what you say? Is that just small talk, or do you have what's your moves for in the room?
When I get in the room, it's it's obviously first and foremost not take myself out of what's first and foremost on my mind, which is the dialogue, the scenes that I'm about to do.
It's the most important.
So I'm very short in the very beginning. you know, the pleasantries of how you doing? Good to see you. Thanks for having me here.
So when they ask you, hey, how's it going? You just stay silent.
Yeah, no, I just give them a deadpan stare. No, you know, and I go into the material, and then once that's over with, and you get that first one, it's always that first
Right. Just the nerves.
scene
the
out
nerves
of your
are out.
system.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've never really been much for nerves in the room.
Yeah.
Which I'm very thankful to be able to like let go of any nerves. Unless, of course, I'm absolutely not off book, and then there will be some nerves involved.
Has that happened before?
I try my best to not.
But even if you get it the day before, like
I just had an audition for Stumptown, which I got the night before, and I was working on this project.
Yeah. Oh, so you're busy at the same time.
I was busy
So
at
it's
the same
yeah,
time.
that's always tough.
I knew that I was gonna be working on that project the day of the audition.
let's call it Project X. So
yes, Project
Project
X.
we
X.
can't talk about it because he's working on it right now, but he's part of a big thing.
Very
Project
secretive.
X.
Very secretive.
Very
Yeah.
secretive, which
Yeah.
will drop in October 2020. I can't
Awesome.
say that. Yeah.
We'll have you back in October. Wait, we wouldn't even say what day it was. But anyway, we'll bring you back, and you'll tell us all about that process.
Right. So I had to focus on the work at hand, but then commit this dialogue to memory somehow. And a friend of mine who's one of the stars of Bold and the Beautiful, anybody who's ever done a soap opera knows that you, on any day, you can do anywhere between 40 to 60 pages of dialogue
My God,
in one day.
it's crazy.
So anybody who does soap operas or ever wants to do soap operas, just know that it's actors boot camp. And it will stretch your memory to the absolute limit. And I asked him, how are you dealing with this? And he's like, I'm using an app called Line Learner. And it's like a $4 app or $4.99. And it's been an absolute godsend.
I
because
never know if those are
Interesting.
worth it.
Yeah. I
Oh
don't
my
know.
God, it's so
how,
worth
How
it.
does that app work, or how does it?
You record your line, you record their line, whoever else is in the scene, whether it's multiple people or not. You can download your PDF version of your sides, which is how you normally get them in email anyways, and you can import it into the app, so you can actually have the sides on the screen of your phone, and you go through and you record it, and then you can listen to it much like you would a song to learn a song. And you know, I'm usually on a motorcycle, so I'm listening it to in my headphones or at home, and just have it playing in the background.
Kind of just saying your lines is between.
And I have the sides in my hand. If I have the printed sides, which I usually will as just another thing to have, another tool. And once I feel comfortable with my lines, then I can go into the app and I can gap, what's called gapping your lines. And you can basically, the time it takes you to read the lines is the amount of time that gap will be. So then you can, because I know people that use like a voice recorder and they'll record their lines and then kind of think in their head the other lines.
Right.
And then
Time it, sort of
and
time
time
it.
it, or
Yeah.
sort of time it, and that doesn't. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, because you might record the lines too long, and there'll be too much of a delay, or you might end up having to say your lines much faster than you would normally, in order to avoid being overlapped.
Okay.
And this thing gets rid of that.
So does it take into account? Because like I know I have an app similar to that I sometimes use to help me like learn lines quickly. It sounds like mine's a little bit different, but what about if like, you know, because sometimes you're working it out, you might try the line different ways. You might slow it down, you might speed it up. Does it take into account that time?
You can do that on this
Okay.
app. It has actually a little symbol on the side with a scale, and it's got a little turtle and a rabbit. So
Very simple.
you can slow it down if you
Yeah.
need to slow it down, or you can speed it up
All right.
if you need to speed it up. So that
What's this app called again?
it's called Line Learner.
And you're an equity partner in this.
Yeah, I wish I was. I wish I was, because it's a great
So out of that
app for-
$4.99, you get like $3.
Oh my God. Yeah, that would be awesome. You know, for me, it's the booking ratio. It's like seeing how this audition that I got notified the day before, I went in with sides in hand. Even if I'm off book, I'll always have the sides in hand.
Yeah.
Because you never know what if. You may drop a line and be like, and you don't have your sides there, and now you're...
I learned the hard way one time on
Yeah.
on a big casting
You'd
director.
be like, I got this.
I had it, and then
Yeah.
she threw a curveball at me, and I wasn't ready for it.
But
Right.
isn't looking down and trying to find, you know, isn't that almost as bad? Not as bad, but
But
almost.
we do that when we're talking. Like as we're talking here today,
Yeah,
you know,
you're
I'm
kinda
looking
looking
down
down.
and thinking my thoughts, and as long as you're staying in character and you're not dropping the intention of the scene, it's really something that it won't throw up a red flag for them.
Yeah.
So, I have no problem going down to the page if I need to and bringing it off the page and coming back up. But it's just being comfortable with the lines and knowing you get to the point where you're not looking at the sides, but yet you know that you're at the end of that page and you're flipping the page in your hand.
Yeah.
Because you start building that skill set over time. And it does take, some people are amazing auditioners. And there are a lot of actors out there that are horrible auditioners. Do
you feel like you're a great auditioner? I have to say yes because you.
I feel I'm proficient. Yeah. I feel I'm consistent enough that I'm always in the running for something. And so I went in for this Stumptown audition and didn't even look at the sides. And I think I got there a little early. I like to get to auditions early just to get rid of any of those nerves or how LA is with traffic and parking. You get there and you're all aggravated. Yeah. You don't want to bring that into the room. So sure. I got there about an hour early.
Is that Wendy O'Brien?
That's a lot early.
Wendy O'Brien. Yeah. I love her.
She's great.
She's cast me in multiple things. She cast me in Wisdom of the Crowd. She cast me in 68 Whiskey. She's cast me in a ton of things.
Bunch of stuff. So she knows you.
Yeah. She knows me. We have a pretty good rapport, and I love going into her office. She's what I consider to be the actor's casting director. She's very sweet. She's very collaborative, and she'll give you a quick redirect. And I always have a great time in the room with her. Not that I don't with other casting directors.
Which ones?
Yeah, exactly. Well, there's no. It's really fun when you get in there and you have that rapport with them, and it puts you more at ease. That's one less thing to have to worry about.
Right.
And I got in there. I actually got there early, so I threw on Line Learner, threw on my headphones, and walked over to Starbucks, grabbed a coffee while I was learning the lines, and I was still on the page. And I got back and I got in the room and everything just
kind of flowed.
It just clicked. Yeah. And I didn't look at the sides. And she was like, that was fantastic. Okay, let's do it with a little more sense of urgency. Okay. And then I took the note. Again, I didn't look at the sides. And today, on the way here, I got the notice that I was unavailable for it.
Nice.
Now, what happens when a casting director who's not somebody that you know too well, what happens when they give you a note, you don't really get what they're talking about, or maybe you don't agree with it? How do you handle that?
I give them what they want. Ultimately is what,
so even if you think it's a bad note, you would still...
I would still try to incorporate it somehow or try and internalize it somehow to be more along the lines of what they're looking for.
Because the other school of thought is that maybe you just go, yeah, man, that's interesting. And then you already had maybe a different way to do it in the back of your mind, and then you just give them something different.
Sometimes it could be doing that, especially if it's a casting director you don't know, not familiar with. They could be doing it just to see if you can make the adjustment.
Just to see what you can do.
And if, and I have had conversations, lengthy conversations with casting directors when they say, yeah, sometimes actors come in and you give them a note and they do nothing of what you ask them to. And a casting director will look at that and be like,
it's not gonna take
this person is someone who may be problematic on set, and do I really want to put my name behind this actor, send him to set, and then I get a call from casting, or not casting, from production. The director is saying this actor can't take notes.
And he's stealing crafty,
Right.
Get rid of this guy.
And it's a total diva, which is me. I'm a total diva on set. And so it's just, I find it a fun experience. It's been something that I've always wanted to do. I grew up, born and raised in LA, which people seem to be shocked by that.
Well, yeah, I feel like it's not often that you meet people that are from here.
Yeah, I left my unicorn horn at home. So.
There it is.
I've had that conversation on set where it's like, oh, where are you from? Pennsylvania. Where are you from? Miami. Where are you from? LA. Oh, Louisiana. No. LA. Los Angeles. And they're like, really? What's that like?
Yeah, interesting.
Right. And
so your whole life, huh?
My whole life. Yeah, it was something that I wanted to do as a kid. I was raised by a single mom, 2 boys. My mom raised 2 boys on her own. So the ability financially to put us in some kind of art form was not readily available. So it was something that had always been in my heart. I ended up, after high school, going off to the military, to the Marine Corps. And while I was in the Marine Corps, I picked up the hobby of salsa dancing.
I was going to ask you. I saw that on your IMDb.
Yeah.
I was
world class.
You tell me you're a karate expert or fighting expert. I believe you. I can tell. Well, when you tell me you're a salsa expert, I'm like, all right, is he just putting that on his resume?
Yeah. And then you picked this up in the military? Hold on a second.
I had a buddy of mine who I was in town on Weekend Liberty, and he was promoting us a Latin club, and he's like, hey man, we had this Latin club, why don't you come check it out? They have a free salsa lesson from 8 to 9. And I'm like, yeah, I'll go check it out. And I had an absolute blast. And I'm like, I'm coming back next Saturday.
Yeah.
And next Saturday.
Cool.
And when I was on leave or liberty, I was in LA taking salsa classes, and then I started taking them I'd go to the club on Saturday for the free lesson and then dance. And then Sundays, I'd go to Long Beach to a place called the Dance Factory, which no longer exists. And the instructor who'd been teaching at the salsa club was teaching all day Saturday. So I'd be there from like 9 a.m. to like 4, learning.
Oh, that's a long day.
Yeah, it was, but I was so
got so
like
into
involved with it.
Yeah. You just loved it.
Right. I was absolutely not.
Now, were you still trying to do acting while you're doing this, or was
no?
it
At the
like
time,
on the
acting
back
wasn't.
burner?
Acting was still not in the mix yet. It was, it had been a passion that had kind of fallen off the wayside because you go.
Is it
you go
just
to
about
school.
meeting girls, this also?
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Some people use it like
it's
that.
a great way to dance with girls, right?
Yeah,
Meet
and it's a
women.
great way to be noticed. Yeah,
Sure.
I would say so for sure.
Yeah.
Is that why you love it?
No, it's just an awesome art form, and I got proficient enough that the instructor asked me to audition for his dance company.
Whoa.
And after about like 3 months that's how like involved I got with it.
Yeah.
I auditioned for the dance company. He brought me on as an understudy, and I think another 3 months later, I started performing with the dance group.
Wow.
And we started traveling. We started traveling to other what they call salsa congresses, which are weekend conventions that take place all over the U.S.
And it's dancing competitions, or is it
There
just more
were
like
there
just
were
shows?
showcases where dance companies from different cities, different countries would come in and perform, and then there would be dancing workshops where they'd be like they'd start at like 9 in.the.morning until the evening, and then in the evening was dancing from like 8 p.m. to like 4 a.m. the next day. It's a salsa marathon.
Yeah.
To put it another way, and I was doing that for about a year. I was still in the military. A couple of my buddies actually got involved in it too, and they started a dance company that was made up of Marines, men and women Marines.
So you weren't the only dancer in the Marines.
No, there was quite a few.
Interesting.
And when I left the dance company, I had run into this girl. I was in Puerto Rico for the Bacardi Salsa Congress.
Obviously.
And it was, a week in Puerto Rico, dancing from morning, noon, and night. And I ran into this girl, and we started dating after that trip when we came back. And she was known internationally as the Princess of Salsa.
And she's known today as J-Lo.
Yeah, no. close. JN. There are her initials. And so she didn't have a dance partner. We weren't dancing as partners. We were dating. And she said, I don't have a dance partner, and I've been invited to go to these festivals and teach and perform. You want to do some of that with me? And we started doing that, and we went to a small congress in Amsterdam. And it was a 3-day congress. And while we were there were other promoters from Spain, from France, from England, from Japan that came and said, hey, while you guys are here, would you guys want to come over to Germany to teach? And would you guys want to come over to London and teach, and Paris? And we spent about 6 months
just traveling and dancing.
Traveling in Europe, dancing and teaching.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
And on somebody else's dime.
Even better.
Getting paid for it.
And you're there with your girlfriend at the time?
Girlfriend at the time.
I mean, what else do you want?
Right.
And
it was an amazing experience. Came back, then we started traveling some more internationally. Actually, the morning of the week before September 11th, we were in Raleigh, North Carolina, teaching a workshop. It was a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And I think Monday was the 10th. I'm trying to remember the exact dates. We almost missed our flight the day before on the 10th of September.
And where were you guys flying to?
We were flying back to LA because we were going to come back to LA, unpack, wash clothes, repack, and the next day fly out of LA to New York to Paris.
Times were good.
Yeah.
Nothing could ruin it.
Right. We got ushered to our flight. We were on a American Airlines flight at 8 a.m. from Raleigh, North Carolina to LA. Got to LA, no problem. Did all the clothes, washing all the clothes, repacking, getting everything ready. We get up the next morning at like 5 a.m, getting ready to walk out the door at like 6:30ish, something like that. And the phone's ringing. She goes and picks up the phone, and it's her family calling from Toronto, Canada. You guys are being attacked. turn on the TV. Where are you? We're like, what?
So the Canadians knew before we
We
did.
turned on the TV. It was East Coast time. It was
Yeah.
like 9 o'clock, something like that.
Right. Because it happened in the morning.
Right.
There, yeah.
We turned on the TV, and it was just such a surreal moment seeing the
Oh yeah.
World Trade Center. I'm like, what the heck is going on?
Right.
And just as we're watching that, the second plane hit.
Brutal.
And we're like, what? And of course, all flights are grounded.
Right.
You know, we're like, the trip to Europe is a no-go, obviously. And 3 or 4 days passed. The promoters in Europe had to switch the dates, not knowing if it was going to go through or not. And then we caught the first flight, the first day the airports were open. And our flight was like at 8 in the morning. We got to the airport at 4 in the morning. And I never seen such long lines. It was just, everything changed.
Because everybody was grounded, so now they're finally being able to leave.
But they were screening everybody and everything.
Yeah.
And we got on that. It was a 777, which is a really big plane. And it was the emptiest flight I've ever been on.
Everyone was afraid, right?
I think in our section, we were in business class. I think I could have counted on one hand how many people were in the cabin.
Man.
And of course, one gentleman walked in, a Middle Eastern gentleman.
People were freaking out.
And everybody
Was like,
unfortunately, was giving this person just the craziest looks.
Did they say anything to him?
I don't think they said anything to him, but it was just, everybody was on edge.
Yeah.
People didn't know what to think, you know?
yeah.
Right.
It was confusing. You
It
know,
was,
like
it
people
was.
are like, oh, we got attacked. Like, who did this? Why would they do this? You know, all this. It was chaos.
Right.
I remember.
Right. And so we went to Paris, taught in Paris. From there, we went to London, Scotland. We spent a significant amount of time there. I think we'd come back to the States and then went back. And we were in Frankfurt, Germany for 2 days. And then the war started in
The war on terror.
war in Afghanistan.
And then you were obviously no longer in the military at this
No,
time?
I wasn't in the military. by
Okay,
this
so
time.
you
I had
so
already
you had
gotten out.
gotten out. Oh, okay.
I was, however, when I was in the Marine Corps, I did spend 8 months in the Persian Gulf during Desert Storm,
Oh, wow.
Desert Shield, Desert
that's
Stable.
wild.
So that was earlier on in the 80s,
Yeah.
like late 80s, early 90s.
What did you do in the military, by the way, as well?
I was a radio operator. I was in
Okay.
communications.
Okay.
And
So you weren't really seeing combat then?
yeah, no, I was
you
I
were
was with all the units that were on the front lines. I was with the artillery units, and then I got moved up to
communicating
the
with
front
other troops,
with
essentially?
other troops calling
Okay.
in support. And I was with the unit that saw combat, the first combat just outside of Kafji, when the city of Kafji was also overrun. And so going from that experience to then
Salsa dancing in another country.
Yeah, and I'm in Frankfurt, Germany, and the war starts, and we're like, what do we do? Everybody looked at me. Like, what do we do?
Yeah.
Like, what are you asking me for? You were in the military. You know how it
tell
goes.
us what to do.
And I was like, maybe we go home. I don't know. But we
dance.
We danced.
Yeah.
We stayed and danced.
That'd
So
have been the play.
I did that for some time, and through the dancing, I got asked to. I was starting to be asked to be involved in certain TV shows as a principal dancer, and one of the first movies I worked on was Blow with Johnny Depp and Penelope Cruz.
One of the best movies ever.
Yeah, it's one of my
Oh, it was
favorite
an
movies.
awesome film.
So tell us about that movie.
Tell us all about it.
Yeah.
I spent about 2 weeks working on that film, and we shot.
And where did they shoot this?
We shot all over LA. We shot at the Biltmore in downtown. Was the wedding scene where he meets Penelope Cruz's character for the first time.
Okay.
That's great.
And if you watch
Yeah.
that scene, you'll see me dancing around
Doing
Johnny and
twists and turns
and Penelope the
yeah.
whole time.
Yeah.
And then there was, I think we shot in Malibu a New Year's Eve scene again with Johnny Depp and Penelope Cruz. And so for me, it was like, oh, I'm
Yeah.
liking this experience. And there were some agents that were showing up
On set?
on set,
Okay.
which was
Yeah.
odd to me. And this one lady approached me and says, like, you look great on camera. What have you considered acting? I said, yeah, I'd love to, but I have no idea where to start. Oh,
Yeah.
you can go take classes. And she sent me for my first commercial class to Blanca Valdez.
Okay, yeah. The casting director.
Right.
Yeah.
And she's a big casting director in the Latino community
Yeah.
for commercials,
Tons of commercials,
and for movies and
She
a
did,
bunch
like
of other
East
projects.
Los and all these other ones.
Oh yeah. She's a well-respected casting director, and
Right.
that was my first acting class.
Mm.
And then through the dancing, I got asked to be on a TV show called American Family, which was Isa Morales, Edward James
Okay.
Olmos, Raquel Welch, Constance
What
Marie.
network was that on?
That was I'm trying to
remember that
remember
show.
if that was on like PBS. It was one of
Okay.
those shows, but the
Okay.
cast was amazing.
Okay.
And
And when you were working on set with Johnny Depp. And
He was
stuff.
a total asshole to you,
Did
right?
you
No, he was awesome.
Did you
he
see?
was awesome.
Was there anything that you saw about what he was doing, about what other actors were doing? Were like, man, they're just really good, or like, did you get any information like something you could learn from them?
He would get in character. I've never studied so much of his background to know if he's more like method acting or what his, method of study of acting had been, or his approach to acting. But he seemed like himself when we wouldn't be filming, but once we were in the scenes in between takes, he was in character. But he was really approachable. He was really, really fun guy. I think we shared a couple of clove cigarettes together.
Cloves.
That's what he smokes, clove cigarettes.
Yeah.
That's his cigarette of choice.
Yeah.
And so that was a fun experience, and it was the first time that I saw myself on the big screen and was like, all right,
I could do that. I could do this.
If we
could do
watched
that.
the movie, we would see you.
Yeah, you'd see me. You see me
Yeah.
in the wedding scene.
Nice. I've seen that movie a bunch of times.
Me too.
It's a good movie.
They just put it on Netflix again. I just rewatched it like a week or two ago.
There we go.
Oh, really?
And
yeah.
you didn't even know he was.
Yeah,
in it.
you'll
It was
see
actually
me in the dancing.
It was like a
scene.
month and a half ago.
It's like, wait a minute.
I have it, and every so often I'll get people that will call me and say, "Hey, were you in Blow?" I'm watching. Or they'll take a screenshot,
Right.
and then text it to me.
Send it
I'm
to
like,
you?
"Oh wow, that's a long time ago."
Yeah.
And
I've done other things since then. Guys, just so you know, I was actually in this starring role in this, but hey.
well, when I was working on American Family, I became really good conversational friends with Edward James Olmos, and I was talking to him about what I'd been doing and what I was looking to accomplish. And he's like, if you're really serious about acting, go back to school. He's like, I have a friend, my son studied at the Meisner Center for Performing Arts, and I can put in a word with you, give you a referral to speak with Martin Barter, who was the teacher. And Martin Barter was Sandy Meisner's assistant the last 14 years of Sandy's life.
And he took over.
Yeah.
Okay.
And when actually Sandy told him, let's open up a school in California, because Sandy, had been on the East Coast at the neighborhood playhouse.
Okay.
And so Marty was brought out to the West Coast. They opened up the school in North Hollywood. And thanks to Edward James Olmos, I went to take the class, and I enrolled in the 2-year program. And then shortly thereafter, I enrolled in the master's program, which was about another 2.5 years. All the while I was auditioning, which I shouldn't have been in retrospect, because I was still very
Are you
green.
technically not supposed to audition while you're going through the program, supposedly?
Why?
Supposedly, yeah.
Right? Because I've heard that through the Meisner program, you're not supposed to
Yeah,
be working,
they
sort of.
because you're still unsure of your choices, and I was very, very, very green.
You were in the movie Blow, and they're going to stop you.
Yeah, but that was because of the dancing skills.
Right,
right.
But you got to tell them, guys, I just worked opposite Johnny Depp. I think I got this, all right? I got this.
I know, but for me, that was like, for any dancer at that time, if they were in a movie, they touted that big time, and it was a big accomplishment.
Oh, yeah.
And now looking back, I'm like, man, what was I thinking?
I think it is a big accomplishment.
I think it's cool, though.
Yeah, it was
especially
cool.
if you saw yourself on
Just to
screen.
be on that set, too. I mean, I think, it's already difficult to get on a set like that to begin with. So just to be able to see it, how it's
Right.
made. And,
and you can be a character witness for Johnny Depp with Amber.
Well, and this is the funny thing too. Looking back at that movie, in the years that I've been acting, I've built a lot of great friendships, and a lot of people that I've come to know on a very personal level. And then I go look at that film, and I see all these actors that are really good friends of mine that have speaking roles in that film, like the scene where he gets shot. Do you remember that?
But they're
scene?
around the table?
They're in a hotel.
Oh, yeah.
and the guys come
like a deal, right?
they're doing a drug deal, and it goes bad.
Right. And he tells him to leave after he got shot.
And
Just
the
go.
guys shoot him. Those two guys, they're twin brothers, Carlos and Mauricio Mendoza. Mauricio ended up being my roommate for like a year, years later. And, he had a great role in that film, and several other friends. And I'm just like, these guys are all friends of mine now.
Random.
Right. And I'm
Yeah.
done. And back then I remember being like, I want to be the one with the lines. I want to be the one that's, being the focal point of a scene.
Totally.
And it's been a work in progress, and I still feel that there's much more to accomplish.
Well, judging from your IMDb, what I would say, I just quickly scrolled through it. Anytime they're taking a hit movie and putting it on TV, they're going to call you. Because I saw Rush Hour, SWAT.
Yeah.
I know TV shows. That Rush Hour was a TV series that was based on the original movie,
Right.
And that was a lot of fun to work on that. And yeah, I've had some amazing opportunities, but you have to take them with a grain of salt because you.
No, dude, don't do that, man.
No, you have to take them with a grain of salt. You can't let that go to your head ever, because this business is one that will humble you very, very quickly. You can be a guest star on a show, 1 month and not be able to get an audition for several other months, and then can't get anything bigger than a co-star.
Right.
And that it's happened to me. It's happened to plenty of friends that I know. So you can't assume that. You just have to take the win and relish in it and continue knowing and have in your mind that, hey, there's still plenty to go. Plenty to achieve.
So I know you've we just touched on it right now, but you've obviously worked on a ton of TV shows, really
Like
notable,
a ton of them.
lots of them. What do you say is? And you just said when you got here on the podcast before we jumped on, you said you already booked like 3 projects.
Yeah.
Didn't talk about that, but I wanted to ask you now. You've worked on all these, a lot of the procedurals, different types of shows, Westworld. I'm almost blanking now. But what do you think is the secret to booking these types of roles? What's worked for you?
I'd say about 3 or 4 years ago, somebody sent me a link to a video, Denzel Washington talking to a group of college theater students. And many of the things that he said to these students resonated with me, in that success is when preparation and consistency meets opportunity. And
You're doing the consistency. People don't usually say the consistency part.
Consistency, because if you're not consistent, then you're going to be all over the place. You might book some, you might not book for a while, and it's just maintaining a level of consistency. And that's, for me, I have a group that meets at my house on a weekly basis, and all we do is help one another with audition technique. And we run it like an audition. They
like
come in.
the stuff that they're going to audition for later
That
in the
they've
week.
either going to audition for,
Or they've already
auditioned for, or they were in the running for, or stuff that's right, like the type of roles that they would want to go out for and are well suited for. And from that group, this group started about, I'd say now 12 years ago. And it was started by Max Arciniega. So if any Breaking Bad fans out there,
Love it. Best show
he
ever.
was Crazy 8. So he was
Crazy
the guy that was chained up with a bike lock in the basement.
First season?
First season, first 3 episodes. He's the first guy that Walter White kills himself.
Okay,
I can't think of his face, but I definitely remember that.
I
Oh,
remember
you
those
gotta watch
scenes,
it.
yeah,
It
but
was
I can't think of
amazing.
the guy. Okay,
And now he's got a recurring role on Better Call Saul, because, as you know, Better Call Saul
it's
takes
a great
place.
show, too.
It's like a prequel
To
to Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
And he's been working on that for years. And he was, he's a Chicago trained actor. Went to Columbia College in Chicago. He's been in the game for a while. Him and another actor by the name of Nicholas Roy, who has since transitioned to just being a voice actor, but he's killing the game.
Why would anybody do that?
Oh my God, he's killing the game. If you look at my resume for TV, you look at his resume for voice, and it's just far extensive.
I imagine it's super hard to live off voice work, right?
He's doing.
I mean,
he's killing it.
It's hard to book that consistently, voice work. That's what I mean.
Yeah, but he's done it in such a way that, he's able to do all these different characters, works on a ton of animated series.
Oh, okay. He can do voices and all kinds of
He
stuff.
does all kinds of voices, and he is what I consider to be a very likable person. He's consistent. He's on time, which is a big thing in this industry.
How big?
Huge. I've known of actors who have been passed up for roles because they were 5-10 minutes late to an audition. And casting directors take note of that. And I've built enough friendships with casting directors and casting associates that they'll tell me, yeah, when someone's late, we make a note of that. We take note, and we notice that. And that can be the difference of you not only not booking the role, but not getting back into that office for a long time.
Interesting. Now comparing it to self tapes, I know you said you like going in more. What do you think? I know you said you booked the last couple of things off of self tapes. what do you think is a good trick to self-tapes to make them stand out compared to others?
Like
Obviously,
besides just doing a good performance?
right, besides lighting and all that stuff, like what do you think are some ways of, because it can be challenging sometimes.
It can be
Especially if there's
challenging.
like action scenes and all these other things, you know.
Yeah, if you're like supposed to be driving in a car and like speeding, it's like, oh, but you're really just sitting on a chair.
Right. Try not to overthink it. And this the imaginary steering wheel in front of you does not work.
Yeah.
It's best just to keep your hands in your lap. And, you know, especially if it's a scene where I'm talking to somebody who's next to me, rather than me facing the camera directly, I'll angle myself so that they're still getting, I'm not total profile, they're still getting some of my face. And that way, when I go to talk to the person who's supposedly sitting next to me, if I'm the driver,
Right.
then they're seeing my face. So this idea of being, when you're sitting facing the camera and you're turning like this, then you start profiling. Like the camera, the mic didn't pick up my voice just then because I turned my face. It makes a difference. You know, those little things make a difference.
Yeah.
One of the auditions that I just booked on tape was me with gunplay, pulling out an imaginary gun.
Yeah.
And you know, there's some props that you can use.
What do you
Your cell phone.
Do you use your phone for a gun?
Your cell
usually,
phone
or-
is a great thing to
Yeah.
use as a prop if you're on a phone or you're texting somebody. But that,
He's just holding up fingers.
yeah, it's literally.
I
what
prefer
that
the
is.
machine gun, just,
Right,
You
or-
know, like
You know, but you can
Yeah.
if you're shotgun,
Yeah.
that works. This works. Never this.
Yeah.
You know. So I
Never two fingers with a thumb above.
Yeah.
Right,
Just
that's-
do one finger.
that
Just kidding,
immediately
just
takes
kidding.
anybody who's watching that audition completely out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you want them to focus on what's happening here and your emotion and not be like, did he just put two fingers up? Like,
Yeah.
Did he just do the finger gun?
This guy.
The finger gun.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, you know, you have to you have to base it in reality.
Yeah.
You know, I've had, like I was saying in this last audition, I'm supposed to pull out a gun and start a gun battle. But once I pull the gun out, then I cut there. And then I just fast forward to the scene, to the rest of the scene where the dialogue takes place. And then I'll come back into scene with the dialogue. And if there's gunplay in between the dialogue, that's fine.
What is gunplay? Just like pulling out the gun?
No, like if you're
shooting or something.
you're firing,
Right.
Yeah.
you know, and you're firing and you're coming back and you're yelling orders
Right.
and talking to whoever is firing, or you're
Like
having
when you're
the gunplay
in the action.
in the action.
Yeah.
Then yeah,
In the
then,
heat of battle.
But if you start like, you know, doing all this stuff and it really is not going to benefit you. So if you see the audition, you'll see the moment I pull the gun, it fades to black,
And then you cut
and
to
then
the
it
next of the
fades
scene.
back in
Yeah.
when I'm ducking for cover and going into the rest of the dialogue.
So you're
So-
editing the self-tapes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying earlier is as actors now with these self-tapes, we've taken on multiple roles, not just the actor, but now the DP, the director of photography,
Right.
the person who sets up the lighting,
The editor.
the sound,
Yeah.
and the editor.
Yeah.
And then you have to get
Put it all
this off in
together.
a timely manner
I know.
for casting to see it.
Sometimes it's a lot easier just to go in, knock it out, and go home. You know what I mean? Like go to the office. Go to the office, do it in person, and all right, I'm done.
Right.
And that's
And
it.
then you go home. But,
Yeah.
you know, and then it gets expensive if you don't have your own setup. I went ahead and made the investment and spent about just under $1,000 to get nice LED lights, a nice backdrop that I can actually roll up into the ceiling and pull down when I need, which is this one's blue.
Yeah.
And at first I thought, blue, why blue? But it pops. You pop on screen.
As
and
opposed
that's
to like
all.
gray.
As opposed to like
Yeah.
gray or black.
I like gray. I use gray on
Yeah,
mine.
I
but-
feel gray's pretty
but
common. That's
It's
what I
like
use.
neutral.
You can use
Yeah.
white. If you light it right, it'll look gray.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true.
So, you know, you just want to watch out for the busy backgrounds, because I had a backdrop that I had purchased that was like a blend of grays and whites.
Tie dye.
But it was it was almost like a tie dye, and it was too busy.
Al, you know, it's not really working for us.
Yeah, no, it's like, and the second I changed to the blue backdrop, it was like,
Game changer.
yeah,
Interesting.
even just that little thing
thing.
that some people may not realize is important.
Yeah.
And the casting director who cast this show that I sent the self tape in for, she grabbed one of the walls in her office is painted blue.
So yeah, it's like it's almost like
It's comforting.
yeah.
Yeah, and it
She
was
knows
like,
that.
oh, okay, yeah, that's
Right.
you're seeing that a lot more now. The less busy the background, the better. You know, some people do it in front of their curtains, but curtains are, you know, wrinkled and that stuff.
Yeah.
Believe it or not,
It actually looks weird.
It pulls the eye away,
Right.
and it takes people out of the reality that you're trying to establish on screen.
So I think what you're saying is don't add a bunch of sound effects to your video.
Yeah, no,
Like guns shooting.
Don't
and
make
like,
the pew pew sound.
get down.
no need to add
Bombs
any
going
sound
off.
effects. Really, although I have done it where
Yeah.
like I had somebody. I have this notepad that if you slap it hard enough,
It
it sounds like a shotgun.
Okay.
And so there was one scene that I had to react to the fact that somebody started shooting at me, but it was well within the dialogue. And it just looked weird for me to all of a sudden have this reaction when there was nothing to react to sound-wise.
Right.
So I had my wife sitting on the back there with the pad, and when it got to that point, she smacked it, and it sounded like a gunshot.
Is this the same woman from pre 9/11 salsa dancing? or-
No. No.
She's way better. Way better.
We've gone our separate ways.
All right.
My former dance partner and I. But yeah, it's sometimes it can be justified, and if it's done and you've committed enough to it, then it's believable.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, totally.
If somebody's yelling "bam" off screen and there's no reaction, or the reaction's too over the top,
Right.
then it may not work.
It might not work, yeah.
So yeah, it's whatever choices you make, you have to commit to them 100%.
So I wanted to kind of backtrack too. You kind of touched on this at the beginning, but I'm really curious to hear about this shadow directing.
That's what I was going to bring
Shadow
up too.
directing,
Yeah,
yes.
because
How is that? How often do you get input?
yeah.
I was in the mix from the very beginning. Once I got there, Anton took me under his wing, and he's like, "Hey, the thing with shadow directing.
This is a single camera show.
It's
or-
a single camera show called LA's Finest, starring Gabrielle Union and Jessica Alba. They're the two leads on
just
the show.
auditioned for that. Me and my twin brother didn't book it, I guess.
What was the?
Well, it was the twin episode. I don't know if it was like a few weeks ago, and Gabrielle Union and Jessica Alba were busting into a bar, and they were maybe looking for twins. I didn't get the whole thing, but they saw twins, which were us, and we were kind of like, like just people at the bar and kind of hitting on them a little bit. And then Gabrielle Union's like, I got some stuff to handle, and she clotheslines a person, and then and then she's like, actually, I'll take that drink with you guys.
Oh yeah,
So,
no,
unruly.
that wasn't the episode that I shadowed on, but Anton, like I said, brought me under his wing and said, as a shadow director, you're seen without being seen, and I didn't quite get that at first. Obviously, I was there to observe and learn. On the first day on set, he was talking to Gabrielle Union, and I was standing there trying to listen in on the conversation, but I was standing in her eye line, and he's got his back to me, and he's talking to her, and she's just kind of staring at me, and then he kind of just turned and looked at me, and he continued his conversation with her. And then at the end of that, he pulled me aside. He's like, hey, remember that thing about seen without being seen? You can't stand in the actor's eye line when they're trying to prepare for the scene, and they don't know who you are and who's this person that's all of a sudden standing in front of me, and it can be distracting. And I totally understand.
You were
that.
standing in front of the camera, or
No. The camera was off. They had rehearsed the scene, and Anton went up to Gabby and was talking to her about the scene, and I was watching Anton and trying to listen in, but Gabrielle was facing him, and so thus I was in her eye line.
such a diva.
No, she's great, and
Nah, she's great.
she's an amazing professional, amazing actress
For sure. And that show looks good.
It's
like
fantastic.
Bad Boys for Women.
It is a spin-off of Bad Boys.
Yeah.
She plays the same character, which is Martin Lawrence's sister, that they established back in Bad Boys 2.
Oh, I didn't realize it was the same universe. I
And
knew it
it's
was like
the same universe.
And
It's the
Jessica
same
Alba
universe,
is
and
how-
so they do make
How's
reference
she
to her brother.
connected then?
Jessica Alba so Gabrielle Union's character comes to LA. She leaves the DEA
Okay.
and comes to work for the LAPD.
Okay.
And they partner her up with another strong female detective played by Jessica Alba.
Okay.
Her name is Nancy McKenna on the show.
Okay.
And then Gabrielle's character is named Sid Burnett. And so they're two strong one, and it's a great show in that sense because you got these two women that are kicking ass.
Well, what did you learn from the directing?
I was in on one of the very first meetings we had was the tone meeting, and that was with all the department heads, all the writers talking about this is what this episode is like, this is where the arc is coming from, and it is a series in the sense that you can't just jump in on episode 5 and
So
understand.
you have to be watching
You
all
have
of
to
them.
be watching the whole,
Okay.
from the first episode, so you understand the storyline, because there's a payoff at the end of the 13th episode, and it's all tied in from the very beginning.
Okay.
So it's not something you can just pick up on episode.
It's not
11
like a
and-
procedural. Just
No,
jump
it's not
in.
like a CSI Miami where you could
Right.
watch one episode and
You get it.
the beginning, the middle, the end takes place in an hour, which is truly unrealistic. But it goes through a progression, and there's an arc, and they have their moments, good and bad, and their relationships, good and bad.
So at this tone meeting, you're discussing story, and
Discussing
art,
story,
and
discussing art. If it's a guest director, which it was, and Anton is one of the executive producers on the show, so he's been there from day one.
He knows the
season.
vibe. He knows.
He knows the vibe. He knows the tone. He knows. So his meetings are usually pretty short. And then you have, when there's a guest director, and nothing against the guest directors, but they spend a little more time with the guest directors to make sure the guest directors understand the
Because they don't want them ruining it. They're gonna, not that they would ruin it, but this is already a vehicle in motion, and they're gonna come in and have
and
to.
then this
Like a
is
new
the
kid in
tone,
school.
and this is how we do it,
these are
and
the
this is some of
rules.
the things that we can do, and some of the things that we'd like to focus on, and the writers are in the room talking about the storyline that they've set for that episode.
And you're sitting in on all these meetings.
And I'm sitting in on
essentially.
all the meetings,
Yeah.
and then I sit in on the production meeting, which was, all the department heads, and they talk with costumes, and they talk with locations and transport, and the art department that's going to dress up, the sets, and it's incredible.
It's a lot. Yeah.
And
And
so
then what's the time frame on this? So let's say he's directing, let's say one episode.
8
How-
days, 8 days to shoot.
Right. But how much
there's like
pre-production
a week
is
and a half of prep.
of pre-production? And then how
Week
much?
and a half to 2 weeks.
And
of
then
prep.
post, how much post work is on that?
Well, we finished that episode over a week ago, and they're in like day 2 of post. We just got the editor's cut for the episode, which I watched this morning. Went to the studio and sat with Anton and the editor and discussed. In the editor's clip, the editor basically throws in everything but the kitchen sink, just to kind of see where we need to adjust.
Right. See where you can cut, or like what
this
doesn't
clip
work.
works, this clip doesn't. Let's use this take instead of the one that's currently on the screen, and so it makes more sense, and that kind of stuff. And that for me is school.
Now, did you also sit in on a casting session
Yes.
for that episode for the guest
I
actors?
sat in on the casting sessions.
What was that like?
The first day after the tone meeting, we went location scouting. And so we got in this really fancy van that had a TV. It had Apple TV. It had Hulu. You could basically do everything. It had snacks. It was this really amazing van.
Yeah.
And we went out location scanning. I was just like, wow, this is
Cool.
awesome.
We're just checking out locations.
Yeah, we're just checking out locations. I felt like a king.
Yeah.
And stopped at really nice restaurants to eat along the way.
Nice.
And
Sounds
then
like a life.
Anton is at one of the production meetings, the very first morning. They're like, okay, now we need to talk to casting. And so one of the showrunners, Brandon Saunier, was in the room, and he's like, okay. So they call casting. I'm like, okay, casting. These are the roles that we need to cast, and we already sent you a breakdown, and and we're going over it. And as we're going over the roles, I see a role,
That you could have played.
and I'm like, oh, this guy is former military.
Salsa dancer.
Yeah, he runs a retreat, and it's all this stuff. And I was like, oh, I could have totally auditioned for that role. Damn it. Okay.
Yeah.
I gotta remind myself that I'm here.
You're picking your battles. You know this is
I'm
not the
here
time to speak up.
With,
But then you call your agent and you're like, hey, guys.
Yeah, no. Actually, what I'll tell you the story. So I was thinking to myself, God, this would be such a great role to play, because
Yeah.
it's right up my alley.
Right.
And as Brandon's reading the breakdown, he just kind of looked over at me for like a split second, was like, and then he just kept reading. And so Anton, they were finishing up on a previous episode. They were doing some pickup shots. And we went down to the soundstage, and we're sitting there, and somebody had liked on Facebook I have an album on there that has pictures of me when I was in the Marine Corps. And Anton's sitting next to me. They set a chair next to me at Video Village, next to the director, next to the executive producer, the writer, and the script supervisor. And I'm sitting there looking at my phone, and Anton goes, what's that? I said, that's me in the Marine Corps. He's like, oh, hey, you could audition for that role. And I said, oh man, I'm here to learn. I'm here to shadow you.
Yeah.
He's like, you could pull double duty, motherfucker. Sorry.
That's all right.
Exact
you
words.
Can say whatever you want.
That's exact words.
I like this guy.
And so,
Fuck yeah.
And so I started laughing. And sure enough, he picks up his phone, calls his assistant, says, hey, get me the casting director's phone number. And again, right when we got done with that, we hopped in the van for location.
Yeah.
And as we're driving, I hear Anton on the phone. Hey, it's Anton. Hey, I want you to reach out to Al Coronel's people. Yeah, for this role. And yeah, no, he's a friend of mine, good actor. And I was sitting there listening. I was sitting right behind him the whole time. Yeah. And then, of course, I get the message from my manager and agent about an hour or two later. Oh, here's this audition.
Right. We got this for you.
Yeah.
And you're more like, yeah, sure you did.
No,
they're requesting you directly.
Right. Yeah, we're pitching you.
Yeah, we're pitching you.
No, my agents and managers are awesome.
Yeah.
And it's just, but this is a situation where this business can, in many respects, be about the relationships you've built.
Right.
And sometimes those relationships can benefit you greatly. But I'm not the type of person to tell somebody, hey, you're directing this show. Hey, don't forget about me.
I got you.
That's never been me, and it will never be me. If somebody thinks of me, or recommends me, I'm always appreciative and very thankful. And the first words out of my mouth to Anton were like, "Hey, man, I'm here for this reason, which is to learn from you and to shadow you."
Yeah.
And I didn't want anything to take from that. But then when he was like, you can pull double duty. And I was like, okay.
It was nice of him to encourage
Yeah, that's
you.
cool that he did that.
And I did get to go audition for it. And it was one of those that I was shadowing. And I'm like, hey, Anton, I have to leave for the audition. He's like, okay, tell me how it goes. And I go to the audition, ride back to set. And we're still in prep, still doing scouting. And we had to actually several days of scouting because several locations that we looked at fell through for whatever reason. There were, it was unsafe, or they couldn't get the permits in time, or, it was too far, and they like to do it in bundles where if they're at one location, it's a lot of money for a company move to one location.
I see.
So if they can make the other 2 or 3 external locations close by,
they save money.
And make base camp the general location, it saves a ton of money. So off that first scout, the producer came up and said, hey, all right, you guys are about $260,000 over budget, so we need to make some adjustments.
Over budget?
Over budget for the episode.
Do you know what the budget is per episode?
I don't.
Okay.
I just heard that and was like, $260,000. Wow, that's a lot of money.
They're like, oh, that's just because we got Gabriel Union on this one. That's why.
And then of course the location manager's like, okay, I have a beat on a few other locations. Let me check on those. And then we went and scouted that same day, and then came back, and the showrunner comes back in. Oh, now you're 280,000 under. I'm like, how did that happen?
Wow.
And we didn't really lose anything. We didn't lose, just change locations.
Wow.
And one of the locations we shot at, and this was actually the week before, we were shooting in Malibu, off of Las Virgenes, right past the location where the accident with Kobe Bryant just happened. We were literally
I think I saw you post on Facebook.
Down the
that.
road from that.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And that Wednesday, I was riding my motorcycle down to set. We were shooting out in Malibu, and I got off the freeway, made that left turn, and got about 2 streetlights, which is right about where that helicopter crashed.
Yeah,
and it was dense fog, and my helmet shield fogged up, and when I went to wipe it, it was just water.
Oh.
And as I got closer to set, by the time I got to set and took the helmet off, it looked like I had been in rain. And that day we were doing some drone shooting, so we had some camera-mounted drones. Right, I'm saying that correctly. Camera-mounted drones, and I started thinking to myself, God, looking around, thinking, I wonder if a helicopter ever went down here, how difficult it would be to rescue. This was on Wednesday. Yes, and I was thinking that to myself.
Yeah.
And then, of course, that Sunday, Kobe's helicopter went down, and it was a foggy day. It was because it's a foggy day.
I remember that morning in LA. It was super foggy.
It's even worse off Las Virgenes.
I can't imagine.
It was dense.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that they didn't even see it coming.
Right.
It was that, based on what I saw, that fog was really, really dense.
Yeah.
So it's things
crazy.
like that you and Gabrielle Union being on the show, her husband
She was affected. Yeah, because
Yeah,
Dwayne Wade.
Dwayne Wade, and
they're good friends.
They're good friends.
Oh,
And,
man.
Yeah.
So Jessica Alba too is friends with Kobe Bryant, with the Bryants,
Yeah.
and so it was a very.
I mean, I imagine they were probably
somber
like
mood.
wrecked on set.
Yeah, I wasn't there because I was working on Project X. I wasn't there to see the aftermath of how that affected people, but I did hear a little bit of that.
Yeah. Did they cancel shooting that day at all, or they just kept going?
I don't
go on.
know. I don't know
Yeah.
if they did. I hesitated to ask.
Yeah, it's very sensitive. Yeah.
Right, and it's still very fresh in everyone's mind. But going back to this whole thing with working on the production side, I got to see things that we as actors don't see. We as actors show up to set. We make sure we're off book. We make sure we're prepared. Where are my marks? What's my relationship? What's the story?
What's for lunch?
What's the story that's driving this character?
Right.
Where's Crafty?
Yeah.
And so I think sometimes as actors, we because we're not aware of that, sometimes we tend to think that the world revolves around us.
Right. We don't realize there's so many moving pieces.
We're a very small piece in a very large machine,
Right.
very large mechanism. And there's so many things that take place. I mean, I got to see how important not only that was for the director to know what he was doing, but also to have the right people working with you, the director of photography, the first AD, the UPM.
Yeah.
The director would say, I have this in mind, and then the AD would be like, well, this isn't going to work because of this. Or, it could work better this way because of that. Or the DP would say, well, the way you want to set it up, the lighting's not going to work here. And it would be better this way. And so I got to see all that.
Yeah.
And it really made me appreciate what we as actors don't have to deal with.
Right. It's a lot.
It is a lot.
And then
it is a lot.
For us, we only come in for let's say it's a day or two or whatever days it is, and then the director's there from the beginning to the end.
To the end and beyond.
Yeah.
Because they have the week or two of prep,
Right.
not just the filming,
Post-production.
but also the post-production.
Right.
And it is a very tedious process. And when
Did you get cast for the role? Did you get cast in the role?
The director ended up nixing him. Just kidding.
the previous role, the one that I auditioned for?
Yeah, the one you auditioned for, you were shadowing.
So I was saying,
Yeah.
when we were in that van with the TV, he was on an iPad and he was via Apple TV was pulling up the auditions and watching them.
Wow.
With a headphone
That's
headsets.
Yeah.
And watching these auditions.
Does he watch the whole thing, or how many?
Yeah,
does
he
he
would
have?
watch the whole thing and then he'd go back and then he'd look at the next one, and so I could see, who was being cast in certain female roles and who was being cast. But I didn't see any of my. He
didn't show the characters that.
No, I think he watched. I think, and rightly so. I felt that he probably shouldn't have watched it in front of me anyways.
Yeah,
if he would have pulled me up, I would have said,
Yeah.
Anton, watch that some other time. And
Yeah, it would have been awkward.
Yeah, it would have been an awkward moment.
Yeah.
But they had me in the running. The producers came up and said, "We saw your audition. Good job." But then they changed the name of the character. And when they changed the name of the character, I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm probably not going to be in the running for this one." And sure enough, they cast a different actor based on the look that they were looking.
Was the
for.
character's name like a different race or something?
It was Mike at the beginning, and then it became Duke. And I was like, "Oh, that's probably not going to be me." And but you know what? They made the choice that was best for the show, and I thanked them for the opportunity. And I was in his office, and it's like, "Hey, I want to tell you, we went with someone else. Your audition was strong, but this is the reason why." And I said, "Hey, thank you so much for the opportunity."
Yeah.
And then he told me, "Well, we still have a few more episodes left." I said, "Hey, man."
Yeah.
I said, "Thank you for the opportunity. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't,
Right.
no worries. You don't owe me anything. Me just being here shadowing you, for me, is more than enough."
That's nice of him to say that, though.
Yeah. He was, and as an actor, you're not going to book everything. The idea is to want to book everything and
Of course.
put your best foot forward to book everything, but it's an unrealistic expectation. You want to, as a goal, it should be your goal. Book 100% of the auditions you go on, but as an expectation, you want to be realistic too.
Did you discover anything from I know you said he was watching him in the van, but did you discover anything from the casting process itself from the directing perspective?
Well, actually, when they got to the callback, when they narrowed down the field.
Oh, was it in person, the
actresses, they had the actresses and actor. They had the actors, male, female actors, come and do the audition in person. And,
And
so
did you-
I was
you
in
were
the
there?
room.
Okay.
I was in the room. So it was like, this is Anton, this is John the writer, and this is Al.
yeah.
It's like, nice to meet you, nice to meet you, nice to meet you. And some of the
Al's the bigwig here.
Yeah. I was like, actually,
Yeah.
can you do that another way?
Right.
Like he's giving them
No,
direction.
I would just sit there and I would watch and again, seen but not seen.
Yeah.
I would let Anton and the writer discuss with the casting director, who they felt was directable and who they felt fit the role more. There was one girl who came in and just crushed it.
Yeah.
And she's an actress who is on the series Yellowstone. She crushed it.
Okay,
I
cool.
absolutely loved her audition. But it wasn't believable that she would have been the age that they needed her to be.
I see.
And when I was watching this audition, I was like, she's the one. That's it.
Yeah.
That's an amazing audition.
Yeah.
And then, she walked out and other actresses came in and I was like, well, that was pretty good. But I still like the other one.
Yeah.
Well, that was pretty good. Oh, no, that actually is really good.
Yeah.
Everybody that they brought in 7 female actors.
And they were all
this,
good.
for this role. And they were all capable. Let's just say that. They were all capable. They were all prepared.
Did it feel like each one had something a little different?
Yes,
Or were they all a little similar?
Definitely. And there was one thing that I was always told by Marty is never leave yourself out of it. You are what's unique. And so you have to bring the essence of yourself into it, but be within the parameters of the story of the character and what the character is. But all these actresses were phenomenal. And I was very impressed. But then sitting back and going over each and every one, when they got to her, I was like, yeah. And then they started talking about like, well, she would need to be this old, and it would be not believable that that this happened to her when she was this age, and now she's this age. She still looks really, really young. And then I hadn't thought of that. And I was like, oh, that's right.
Because you were just thinking about the performance.
I was
itself.
thinking about the performance. The performance, she knocked it out.
You
of
had the
park for
acting
me.
hat on.
Yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, she was amazing.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't have served the story. And so I came to my senses and was like, yeah, this, and the actress that got booked is someone who I had worked with on another series and very capable actress, and she crushed it on set.
Yeah.
She brought exactly what it needed to bring, and it was believable, and the storyline made sense with her in that role.
Yeah. And I think sometimes we have to realize that like all those things are not in our control.
No, it's
like you just do your best job, and then like I wasn't tall enough, I was too short, whatever
Right.
it is. It's like can't do anything about that.
And that's another thing too. For me, seeing that is a big eye opener of you're not going to get every role, because you may go in there and you may crush it and walk out of there like that was the best audition I ever did, and then you don't hear anything. And it can be very well things that are out of your control. There's
Yeah.
the chemistry between it wouldn't be believable that this person and this person would interact, or this, that would live in this particular universe. And we have to keep that in the forefront of our mind. I have other friends that are, my friend Jane Ali Ortiz, she's the lead on Station 19. She's part of the acting group that I said meets in my house. And when she was up for the role of Rosewood, she was, she, in the second season, she got to sit in on some of the casting. And she saw people that came in and audition, and same thing. She was like, oh my God, this person was incredible.
Yeah.
And then she'd listen to the producers and the writers, and then they'd make different choices, and she would be like, but this person was amazing.
Yeah.
Things that are out of our control. So as an actor, we have to go in there and put our best foot forward and come in prepared, because you might not get that role, but you make enough of an impression. The casting director is going to remember, the producer, the writer, the director is going to remember, and they're going to be like, yeah, although that person wasn't good for this role, we have this other role that's coming up in the next episode that this person would be perfect for.
Right.
And so,
Be open to it.
right. And
Be
so
ready.
I didn't book that role.
Yeah. But you'll be back
I already booked another role on the show.
on the show. Boom. With your buddy directing.
No, he's not directing. He's
Oh.
producing. There's a guest director.
Okay.
But I found out today that I booked that role.
Awesome. Congratulations.
And that
man.
was off of a self-tape, because again, I was
Nice.
working on Project X,
Okay.
and I wasn't able to go in person. So I had a friend of mine be my reader. We shot it at my house and with all my gear and sent that
Yeah.
off, and today when I showed up to
No
editing,
callback, right? Straight to
it went
just
straight to
booking.
casting. Casting sent it off to producers, and
Nice.
today when I was sitting in editing, I got the news.
sweet.
And so,
congrats.
and today I got to sit in another tone meeting for this episode that I'm actually working in.
Okay.
And they got to that scene that my character is in, and then Anton goes, well, you know, the guy playing this role, I don't know about this guy. I hear this actor's really, really, really horrible. And then the writer who we had become friends
with, yeah.
on the other episode, he's like, yeah, we may need to bring in an acting coach for this actor because we hear this actor. And then I chimed in and said, I heard this actor's a real diva. So yeah, I don't know, it may be problematic on set.
Right.
So everybody
That's
had
cool,
a laugh
man.
at my expense to
Yeah.
that one. But
That's awesome though. You build those relationships and like you maintain those, and it's awesome that guy was willing to let you shadow.
yeah,
Like and where that kind of leads to.
right.
Because I feel like most people would be really timid to even ask that question. Like, hey, you know, I'd love to shadow you sometime.
Right.
Like, I bet you nobody ever asked them that probably.
Yeah, they might not ask, or they might not, or they might get a straight out no.
True.
Because sometimes that shadowing program is dictated by several entities. You know, like I'm trying right now to get into the Sony directors
Like a fellowship or something.
mentorship program.
Okay.
And what they do is they'll get like 200 applicants, and they'll only bring in maybe 12. And these aspiring directors get assigned to an episodic. They'll go and they'll shadow, and they're paid a stipend to do so.
Okay.
And this is dictated by the studio. Sony has one, Disney, ABC has one.
All the major
All
networks.
the major networks have some kind of director program.
Right.
And I'm trying to get into the Sony. I'm trying to apply for all of them, but there's a few things that I need to accomplish to make myself more viable and presentable to do that, because these
probably
aspiring
tough.
directors have already directed some shorts or have had an opportunity to direct commercials and have, you know, been asked to direct, and so
Right.
they
They
are
have
on
more
the, on
bigger
the
body
verge.
of works,
Right.
essentially.
So I'm in the process of you know, looking at a few scripts to direct.
Cool.
And get them into some festival circuits that may put me in better status to be able to apply
Why do you
confidently.
Why do you think that guy said yes to you?
Because I watched them, I listened to them. We had a good rapport when I was working on The Last Ship, and he, you know, complimented my work ethic on set, and I watched him do his thing, and I complimented him on how I felt he was as a director, and then I got to work with him again on training day, and I was like, man, I really want to shadow you, and he never forgot.
That's cool.
And he'd send me, you know, a message every so often. Hey, I haven't forgotten about you.
Yeah.
And in December, I was working on a TV show, Man with a Plan, with Matt LeBlanc.
Cool.
And I was thinking to myself, God, I wonder if I should send Anton a message. I don't want to bother him. I don't want to be that actor.
Yeah.
You know. And I hadn't heard or spoken to him in 6 months. And the next day, I get a text from him.
Oh, you put it out there.
I said, hey, it's Anton. Hey, I haven't forgotten about you. Hey, as a matter of fact, do you want to shadow me on this next episode? I'm working on this show. I was like, hell yeah. It's like, okay, I'm going to have my assistant reach out to you. The next morning, the assistant called me, and she's like, we're going to get you in on the email loop. You're going to start getting emails with all the production meetings and all the production schedule and the scripts and the rewrites. And I started just getting everything.
Yeah.
All the emails.
You're like, whoa, slow down, guys.
Now I'm really in the mix here. I'm like, whoa, this is really happening.
That's cool, though.
And and it's just so fresh in my mind. And today we sat down, and he's like, if you could take anything away from it, what would you take? And I started telling him about my perspective as an actor, understanding that, you know, we're a small piece of a bigger puzzle. And understanding that, and it actually is inspired me to really, really go after the directing career.
Stuff.
Yeah. I still want to act. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But it's always good to. I think knowing that as an actor will just help me be a more well-rounded actor.
Yeah. I think it does help. I mean, we make stuff together sometimes, and I've directed a few shorts and stuff like that. And I think
Johnny's a great director.
I think it makes you. I think it does make you a better actor, because you start seeing things, and you also start respecting other people on set more.
Right.
You know, because it's like, man, they're working a lot harder than I am. Honestly, they're doing like that PA man. He is like, here 15, 16, 17 hours, and I'm just coming in for a few things, and that's it.
Yeah, it was great. It was great to see that continuity and that cohesive mentality on set where everybody seems so happy to be there.
Yeah.
And you got to think about it, like where I could be working a 9-to-5 job, sitting surrounded by four walls, working with people I don't particularly like, taking orders from people I don't particularly respect, and being miserable. And that's, for me, has never been anything that I've aspired to do.
Yeah.
And I've worked in that environment. I've worked in the, the corporate world, and for me to be able to say that I'm making a living and also qualifying for health insurance. Whew, that's a big one.
Got that pension too?
Oh yeah, the
there
pension.
We go. Hey.
Like,
those are
I've been able to
benefits
qualify for Plan 1, which is like the highest level
Nice.
of health insurance, I think the last 7 years.
Amazing. That's
so,
huge.
Yeah, that is huge.
The percentage of union actors that are actually like hitting that is so low. So
I read a statistic, and it was 92% of union members make less than $5,000 a year as actors.
yeah,
And I was like, God, that would suck.
that's tough.
And some of them, I've met some people that they have their SAG membership, and they will occasionally work a project, out of just passion and love and
Right.
something different to do, but it's not something that they're pursuing all out.
Right.
And my belief is, if you're going to do it, for me personally, I have goals that I still feel I'm far from achieving. So for me, it's just that extra drive to be like, doing what I do. And when people ask me, aspiring actors ask me what they need to do to be an actor, well, I ask them, why do you want to be an actor?
For the fame.
and I hear that, and I'm like,
And you're like,
you may
just keep
wanna,
doing it, bud.
Yeah, you may want to reconsider then the reasons. You may want to reevaluate.
What is
that.
a good answer? Like, I just want to tell a story.
Yeah, you want to be creative. You want to tell a story. You're passionate about it. You want to be able to create things that will inspire others. I love to hear those answers.
Yeah.
But when I hear, for the money and the fame, that's a tough one, because you have to be honest with someone and say, man, it's
probably not going to work that way.
You're going to be sorely disappointed.
Yeah.
When it doesn't happen. If
Right.
that's what your end goal is, you need to reevaluate that.
Right. Right.
Go take classes, and learn the art if you aren't already, and put in the work, and watch this video that Denzel talks about.
It's a great video.
It's an amazing video, and I think he opened the video was like, I hope you get up I hope at night when you go to bed, you put your shoes way under the bed, so that in the morning when you get up, you have to get down on your knees to reach them, and humble yourself, because this business can be just that. It can be extremely humbling. And then know that if you prepare and you're consistent and you build up that consistency, then when the opportunities arise, then you'll have success.
Yeah.
To what level of success, that depends on you, on
Right.
what you deem success to be.
Right. Everyone
'Cause
has
it's
their own
different for
definition.
everybody.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody has their own definition of what success could be,
Right.
and it's,
Some people could be like, you just want to dance in the Blow movie, and that's it.
right. Yeah. So I'm just, see me, I'm right there dancing around them. Yeah, and I knew at an early age that
You wanted to do this.
that's what I wanted to do, and,
Yeah.
and to actually be in it, and I've been doing it for so long now, and seeing my peers. I when I go to an audition, it's like a reunion.
You see all the people
I see all my friends, and
Yeah.
it's weird. We're competing against one another. No.
You
way
want
to-
that role, but you're
You
like,
want
if
that
one of those
role,
guys get it, you're like, all right, cool.
And I cheer for them, and
Yeah.
I'm happy that
Yeah.
they get it.
Yeah.
I may scrutinize their work. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. No. When I see something that I went out for that I didn't get, but then I see it's somebody that I know personally, and I cheer their successes. And I think that's also part of it is you're not going to get every role, but also you're going to know the people that you're going to be up against. And it's going to become very clear who it is that you're going to see regularly at these auditions.
And then you see them in like, because it happens to me all the time now, and I see the same guys, and we all say hi to each other, and it's like we all know like, hey, all of us are more than capable of playing this character, but we're just like, you know, we just do our best, and then whatever happens,
right?
You know what I mean? It's all you can do.
And it can be a numbers game too. You know, it's when I got the role in Logan, the movie Logan.
That was gonna be my last question for you too. I was gonna ask you about that.
I asked the casting director how many submissions they got. They got somewhere in the neighborhood of 2,600 submissions.
And your role, for the folks at home, you were like a military colonel.
I was
or
the federale
something.
commander.
The commander, yeah.
In the scene where we discover them in Mexico and go chasing them down. And
they get the girl or whatever, right?
To get the girl.
Climactic part of the movie, I think.
But it's very early on. It was where we got to see what X-23 was capable of. Mm-hmm. And she's a badass.
Yeah, the girl.
The girl is a badass. And Laura. And so I think out of 2,600 auditions, they brought in 200 actors.
Still a lot.
Still a lot.
Yeah.
For one role.
Yeah.
I get there, and of course...
And this was in person then?
In person.
Okay.
And I get there, and everybody in the room are my friends.
Did you know what it was? Did you know what it was for? Or did they tell you something else?
I didn't know what it was for. I didn't know what it was for. It was like code name Juarez, the Juarez Project.
Right.
The sides were highly redacted.
Yeah.
And sometimes you look at sides and you see things that are crossed out and you can read it because sometimes you might find little nuggets in there that will help you with your audition.
Yeah.
Information that sometimes actors don't look at that, and there could be something crucially important in what's crossed out.
Yeah.
So you pay attention to that stuff. The sides came and just about everything was completely blacked out. Where only my lines and the line of the people who I was talking to
like these were military
visible.
Documents or something.
Yeah, and I was like, what in the world? And I get there and I audition, and about 10 of us went to go have lunch afterwards. We were all auditioning for the same role. We all took pictures outside and posted something about like when friends get together. And
classic LA stuff.
Right. And like 3 months pass, and then I get a call, hey, you're in the running for this project.
Jeez, 3 months.
Yeah, 3 months.
You completely forget about
it.
No,
I was like, oh, okay. No, I remember the project. She's like, okay. And then my agent calls me back like 2 weeks later. Well, now you went to studio, and now I can tell you what it is. It's for the next Marvel movie, the Wolverine movie. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't even called Logan. It was called Wolverine.
Turns out
calling it Wolverine.
Turns out it's the best Wolverine movie they ever made.
It is. I mean, that movie is by far one of the best Marvel movies ever made.
I think so.
Right. And then I get the call. I was dead asleep. I get the call from my agent. You got it.
And there was no callback or nothing?
No, there was no callback. It was the one audition.
Just that one audition.
The one and done.
Yeah.
And that's what I call those. When you go in and you go through this entire process and there's no chemistry read, there's no, none of that stuff. It was just like one and done. And I got the audition. I got the notice that I booked it, and I jumped up and down on my bed like I was a kid. It was crazy. And then, of course, start getting all the emails and, hey, we're going to send a car to pick you up. You're being taken to the airport. You're being flown to New Mexico, this, that, the other. You're being put up at this. I was put up at the Bernalillo Inn, which is like their 5-star resort in New Mexico.
I've never been to New Mexico, but I can only imagine.
Oh, man, it was amazing.
Yeah.
And I get there. I go to the gym to work out. Who's in the gym already working out? Hugh Jackman with his trainer. And I'm like, holy crap.
Hey, can I get a spot? That was
right. He had flown his trainer in.
Horrible Australian accent.
He had flown his trainer in from Australia. And so then I go, they drive me out to set just for a fitting. And it's just like a city on its own. It's just this gigantic.
So they just built this huge thing?
They built this gigantic base camp out in the middle of the desert. And get taken back to the hotel. I get up at my call time the next morning. They were going to be picking me up at 7 a.m. So I got up at like 4:45, went down to the gym. Hugh was already in the gym.
Obviously.
And we started to talk. And, what are you doing? And we hit it off famously. And then I met Boyd Holbrook.
Oh yeah, he was the guy from Narcos, right?
Yes, he was in Narcos, and we became good friends. And then Stephen Merchant, and
he's funny, man.
Yeah, he's freakishly tall.
Yeah,
like astonishingly tall. It's very unnerving. And we must apologize. I think the second night, Boyd is like, "Oh, you want to go to the bar, grab some wine?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." 7 or 8 bottles later,
guys are all telling
and
stories.
Stephen Merchant is there, and of course they shaved him bald for the role,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and it's just like I start meeting all these executives that were staying at the hotel. I was staying in the same hotel with James Mangold, and I was staying in the same hotel with all the producers, the vice president of 20th Century Fox. And
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
what the hell's going on? And then go out to set and start working on this scene, and it was just amazing. And then there was one point, because my character goes from Spanish to English, English to Spanish, where in between takes, James like, "Al, come with me. Let's talk about this scene." And we start walking around the limousine and how would you do this? And what would you say? And what are you saying here? And I'm sitting
That's
there,
awesome.
and it was just a moment of like,
That's cool, man.
holy shit, James Mangold, who I'm a huge fan of.
Right.
310 to Yuma, Walk the Line.
Yeah.
I'm like, and now he did Ford versus Ferrari. He directed
That movie was so good.
I haven't
Damn.
seen it yet.
That
I want to
movie's-
see it.
The movie's
but-
one of the best movies this last year I saw.
I haven't seen it yet either.
That was so good.
Yeah, so I'm sitting there and I'm going,
Yeah.
I'm getting a one-on-one direction here with James Mangold
Yeah.
on this huge film. And I'm thinking, wow, it was like an out-of-body experience for me. And got in real good with Hugh. He even sent my daughter a congratulatory video greeting when she got engaged. She got engaged while I was in New Mexico.
Wow.
And he sent her a greeting that I had to hold on to for a while. I couldn't.
Oh yeah, because you get in trouble, right?
Right. There were NDAs
if she
in place
posts
for
it,
everything.
then you get in.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
so I waited a while.
Yeah.
And then once everything was said and they actually posted on IMDb who was in it,
Yeah. Then you could release
then
it.
I was able to okay, here, I can send you this
Right.
now. Because they had posted, some pictures had been posted of Hugh in character and costume. And so I wasn't divulging anything.
Yeah.
And I was very, very, very careful of that, which is why we're talking Project X, this current project.
Right.
In 8 months.
Can we
8 or
say
9
anything
months.
else about it? Can we say like anything?
It started as a voiceover. I went in for a voiceover audition, and it was.
They just had you in a booth.
Yeah, they just had me in a booth, and it was yelling out some military orders. And the casting director said, "Hey, are you in town?" This is in December. "Hey, are you around for the holidays? Are you going to be in next week?" I said, "Yeah, I'm not going anywhere." She's like, "I'd like you to bring you into my office for an on-camera audition. This is going to be just like you would audition for anything."
What
on
can you say?
TV."
What casting office it is or no?
I can't.
Okay.
I can't yet.
All
Yeah,
right. No
I
worries.
can't. But she's a very amazing cast director, very successful, and in due time I'll be able to say that as
Okay.
well. So she brought me in a week or so later for this on-camera audition. Again, going through a gamut of I had a scene that they gave me to prepare, and I had to do it just like I would in a normal audition, and it was where I'm an assassin of sorts, and somewhat cold-blooded, and so I had to actually
Kill a guy.
Yeah, talking about
There was dialogue in the scene.
there was dialogue,
Okay.
and there was action, and there was gunplay and that kind of stuff, and I did that in her office, and then I got the notice that, hey, you booked this, and this is what's going to happen, and these are the NDAs you need to sign, and
Can we say the type of media this is?
it is a video game.
Right. It's a big brand name video game.
That's all we can say.
I can neither confirm nor deny that.
Okay. But this was cool. So this was just literally one audition off of.
If it was actually
it was
a two-part,
the
because the
voiceover,
and then based on certain things I was doing in the booth while she was watching me and directing me, she then gave me a heads up that she was going to have me brought in for an on-camera audition. And this project is going to keep me busy for a little bit.
Nice.
Yeah.
Have you already started working on this?
I have. That's why I had to put myself on tape for LA's Finest. I couldn't go in person because I was
Gotcha.
already working on this. And on the last day of working on this particular phase of the project, I got the notice on Thursday that I had an audition for Stumptown for Wendy O'Brien.
Right.
And there was some wiggle room, so they were able to accommodate me. I think it went so well with Project X that when I brought it to them, I said, hey, there's this audition that they're sending me. They'd really like me to go in person. I can put myself on tape. If it's a problem and you guys can't work it out, no big deal. I'll put myself on tape.
They were flexible on it.
And they
cool.
The project manager walked off to the side, and I could see him like texting and calling, and
he's like, "Oh man,
we got it done
Al's giving me a hard time over here."
Right. I told him, please don't. If it's any trouble, please don't trouble yourself, because this is right now my first and foremost and primary concern is this project. And this is, I'm committed to you guys, and this is where my mind is, and I don't want anything to interfere with that. And he came back and was like, no, you're good. You have this much time. And I got to the audition, came back, and then, of course, I found out today that I'm now on Avail for that project, too. Nice. So it's like, it's just like all these little things lining up.
That's great. That's the dream.
The cosmos kind of lining itself up for me.
That's the dream. And then this project that you're working on now, when you can finally say, we would love to have you come back.
I will.
Tell us about your experience working on it, because I think it's something that's different that a lot of actors don't have experience working with. I definitely don't have any experience with it, so I would love to hear your perspective on that.
For sure. Yeah, it's I'm excited for it, and it's one of the individuals working on the project. And again, remember, my goal has never been the money or the fame.
Yeah.
Our camera just shut off.
Yeah, no, I think it's that.
That's okay. We still got the audio.
Oh, good.
We got the audio.
Well, one of the individuals, one of the technicians and directors of this particular thing said, in 8 or 9 months. I said, what about 9 months? He's like, you're going to be famous in 9 months. And I said, wow, that sounds cool. But I still am keeping my head square on my shoulders. And if that happens, great.
Yeah.
If it doesn't, it's still, the experience will be one that I will not soon forget.
And it's still something that's a really cool project that a lot of people can't say they've worked on.
Right.
So
I know that our audience is salivating to know this project. So where can they follow you come October when you post this stuff?
On Facebook at Al Coronel, on Instagram at Al Coronel, and on Twitter at Al Coronel.
Nice, you got them all.
Yeah, I got them all. Yeah,
I love it.
I jumped on those.
Hey, that's how you got to do it. Thank you, man. I really appreciate you coming in and partaking the knowledge.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Best guest yet.
I think so too.
I'll say it.
Yeah, I think so too.
Thanks for the beer.
Absolutely,
it was
man.
awesome.
Thank you.
Oh, I did have one other question before we go. You were telling us off mic. You said off mic. You said, I don't think a woman can be president. What did you mean by that?
Oh, what? No, I don't think the current president can be president. That's what I think.
Oh, there it is.
That's for another podcast, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you for tuning in, guys.
All right.